take a plane to another plane, to another plane, to another plane, bumping Baka not nice while I'm trapping in the rain.
All right, we are rolling on a very special episode of Ezza Trips Balls. Ladies and gentlemen, it is episode 50 of Ezza Trips Balls, and also the 1-year anniversary of Ezza Trips Balls. So thank you very much to all of my listeners, viewers, however you're consuming this. I really appreciate it. And YouTube just hit 100 subscribers as well, which I was really hoping for by the time I hit these milestones, and we got there. So thank you to everybody who subscribed to the YouTube channel. If you're just listening and you haven't, please go check it out. You can see our lovely faces in addition to the audio. So without further ado, I have here today somebody who's been certainly a major influence on me as far as being a creative and a rapper specifically. Ase Mor, the corner store rapper. How you doing,
Hello.
brother?
I'm good, man. I'm good. It's snowing here for like the first time. Actually, this would be the second time this year it snowed. I'm not a fan of the snow, but it is kind of nice.
And let the people know where you're at, man, because you ain't in a regular place.
That's true. I'm in Haida Gwaii, BC. I don't know if you can really see right here, but that's the inlet. We're about 100 kilometers off the west coast of BC, man, out in the middle of the ocean.
You're off the coast?
Yeah, 100 kilometers, but 100 plus kilometers off the left coast on a little archipelago due south of Alaska.
Oh my goodness. You are up there and out there, my friend.
Yeah, we're totally disconnected. It's excellent. It's real excellent. I didn't really understand what my sister was saying when she was saying that it was an isolated place like this. You know, like I always had kind of this dream of retiring, like, you know, we're from Ontario, up north, like Muskoka, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I love up north Ontario, yeah.
Right? So like cottage country was the idea, right? And then here is like that, but better. And you don't have that connection to the city or anything, so you really don't have that kind of commercialism creep into town. It's like, it's very organic here. It's very community-based. It's a lot of like thrifting and bartering and trading, and it's a real different kind of vibe out here that I like a lot more than in the city. So that's where I'm staying at.
I would imagine when you have a really small community of people that's also very isolated, like getting stuff from the outside world or the outside world getting stuff to you is not the highest priority. You know what I mean? Like I know when I lived in a remote area of BC, God, not that remote, but you know, they always said everything was on mountain time because everything takes longer. Like if something broke down and they needed maintenance or whatever, they'd have to wait like days, rather than if you live in, you know, a city, you don't have to even wait a day. You can have somebody there in 5 minutes with whatever part or tool you need.
Yeah,
But
100%.
everything was on mountain time, right? And then when I went and visit my homie on Vancouver Island, which is a pretty populated place, but also has, you know, it's huge, right? So it's got like little, you know, towns and little cities kind of scattered throughout. And they say the same thing. They're like, oh, we're on island time because everything takes long to get to and from the island. So you are on like island mountain northern Alaska double time. You know what I'm saying? Like you're fucking out there, right? And not only that, but it's a small population. Like, what's the population of Haida Gwaii?
Like altogether, I don't think it's really more than 12. Actually, I guess it would be maybe about 2,000. Like, there's 800 people live in town here, and then you have. So I live in Queen Charlotte, Dajingit. We're on like the south side of the island, Graham Island. And then, like, the next major town is Port Clement. It's in the middle. I wouldn't say it had even half as many people as we did. And then the third town is Masset, which is on the north end. There's 3 towns. You've got, like, little populations like Talal around Dead Tree and, like, some little spots where people, like, camp and do, like, all kinds of random things with their lives out there. But it's essentially 3 towns.
It's always been incredible to me. Like even 2,000 people, considering where you are, is a lot of people. You know, like human beings are fucking miraculous.
Man, yeah,
You know, like what the fuck?
yeah. The history of these islands is crazy. Everything about this place is it's something else, man. Honestly, like it's hard to like kind of imagine it when you've lived in a city forever. Like like I'm still coming to grips with it really because it's like it's very different out here. There's a different feel out here altogether, right? Like it's entirely not like being on the mainland. And it is island life, man. Like everything's slowed right down because there is no rush, because there can't be a rush. And if there's anywhere you have to go, it's across the street. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like you just kind of like take your time and enjoy the things that that you got and do the things that you want to do. There's nothing else to do here. You're not going shopping here. There's no malls. There's zero franchises. There's no fast food. There's no nothing, period, at all. There's mom and pop shops that sell what you need. And there's fucking an entire archipelago of fucking wilderness.
Wow. That's incredible.
To explore. Right? Over 100 islands. You can just pop island to island, set up a camp here, do something over there. You can go foraging, hunting, fishing. There's so many things to do. It's crazy because when I moved here, my sister, I was in Kelowna first, and then I quit my job because of my back. I was working like in a trade. My sister's like, well, why don't you come out here? It's like a remote island. So I had like some ideas of what that meant, but like I had no idea what that meant.
He had no real idea. Yeah.
None. And I came out here, and I remember walking down the street one day, and I was like, I think I might have made the wrong decision. Just walking down, I guess it's called the highway, but it's Ocean View. It's the main street in town. It's got the ocean on one side, and it's got trailers on the other side. And I'm walking down this road, and I'm like, I think I might have made the wrong decision. I was like, well, okay, so what's wrong here? Like, well, I feel like there's nothing to do. I feel like there's nothing to do. There's nowhere to go. So then I just thought back to where I was at. I was in Kelowna. I was like, well, what would you do in Kelowna? Like, what would you do today in Kelowna if you were there? I'd probably go to the beach. And then after I went to the beach, I'd probably go to the bar. And then after I go to the bar, I'd probably go home. Like, I'm not going shopping. I'm not going to the movies. I'm not, like, doing any of that, really. So then I started thinking, well, all the things really that I would do in town, I would do here. So the next thing I'm thinking is, like, my friends. So in town, in Kelowna, I only had a couple friends because all I did was work and go home. But in St. Catharines, I had a group of friends. And I feel like I still have that group of friends. Here, it's like I've got my group of friends, but it operates a little differently because we're not separated by all that space in town, you know what I mean?
Right.
We're a lot closer here. Like, you share food a lot, you share time a lot because you're not going, it's not like everybody's amassing at the mall or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're going to people's houses. You're having like huge barbecues. You're having all this. I mean, like not right now.
Yeah, no huge barbecues at the moment.
Yeah, not any huge barbecues at the moment with everybody locked down. But the vibe that I got here, like everything that I thought I was missing, I have here, and I have in plenty. And then I have more because I have the wildlife that's here. I have like the mountains and the forest trails and the ocean and the rivers and all these places that I can visit and explore that are just like, it's crazy here. It's I don't really know how else to say it.
Yeah, I can somewhat relate to the wild. I mean, it's probably even more of a different planet where you are. But when I was living at Emerald Lake, it was literally like being on some sort of fantasy planet when you're exploring, the different sights to see and stuff, and the trails and the glacier-fed lakes and this that. It's like it's unbelievable, And when you're out there and exploring those types of places, like nothing else, like a lot of shit doesn't matter. Like a lot of the shit that you thought that you would miss in the city just doesn't fucking matter at all in the
Not at
face
all.
of that reality. You know, it's just so humbling, you know, it's
It
so
is.
humbling. And you don't get that feeling. You don't get that feeling in a mass population. You get a humbling feeling, but it's not a good humbling feeling.
Yeah, it's different, man. Like honestly, it's changed my whole style too. Because I'll tell you something. I'll tell you something. So, like regarding music, I've always been very keen on writing the things that I'm experiencing and not trying to stray too far from that. Like I do enjoy writing stories and things like that, and and you know, like just like challenge myself to write certain kinds of bars that are gonna like, you know, just experiment with stuff. But like essentially, I'm always writing about what I'm doing and where I'm at. So when I was like in the city, you can just imagine every rap song you've ever heard ever takes place in the city,
Yeah.
doing city shit, right?
Yep.
And then I'm out here trying to rap, and I'm like reverting to Kelowna and Duke Street in St. Catharines. You know, like, I'm like sitting here with this view, and I'm imagining like these filthy gutters on St. Paul Street and these fucking like horrible alleyways where bad shit happens and all this, right?
Yeah, you know.
And I'm like, I can't write about that. Like I can, like in retrospect, but I can't write about it like actively, like it's presently, like my situation, right? So I'm thinking like, well, what exactly am I supposed to actually write about? The trees, you know, on some Walt Whitman type shit. Like I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And so like I suffered from massive writer's block. So this was like around the time that I was like, I don't think I should have come here.
I had
like,
horrible writer's block out there too, dog. Same reason. I'm like, man, I
right?
can't write like rap about this. Like it just doesn't, like, it really makes you realize what an urban art form hip hop is, you know? Because yeah, I would put on beats and I'd be like, this is not even the vibe. You know what I'm saying? Like this isn't even the vibe of what's around me. And
Yeah.
you know, I think I didn't stay out there long enough to figure out the way to do it and crack that code. But I've always felt since then like I want to make rap music that would sound good in the wilderness and in nature. You know what I'm saying? And I think that you, as the incredibly gifted writer that you are, eventually would break that writer's block if you stayed anywhere long enough, you know. And I'm glad that you've kind of found it.
Oh yeah, man. Like I definitely feel like I broke that block with like probably the most significant writing that I've done in my life. And I think I can say that honestly too. Like because a couple things happened. Like when I switched over to like accepting this mode and like the whole wave that you get on island, it changed like my thinking to a point. But then I had like two massive milestones in my life occur, which changed just everything from there on out. Like I guess it would be three, but the third one would be tied into the first two. So the first two is concerning like my back and my I got a spinal disease. So concerning that and the chronic pain that I used to have my whole life since I was 15, I've been on opiates, right? Like I've been on fistfuls of morphine and Percocet for like over half my life at this point.
Wow.
And when it came to it, I'm eating like seriously, I would wake up in the morning like a feeling like I got the flu because I slept for longer than 4 hours, right? So like my body's going through massive withdrawal.
Holy.
And I just wake up at like 5 o'clock in the morning, roll over, pull open my drawer, grab a handful of pills, throw them in my mouth, eat them. And that's like a 4-hour cycle I was on. And essentially it came down to the point where I was still feeling so much pain and I'm eating so many pills that it's like they're not affecting me. So I'm like, okay, so I got a couple options. Do I get more? Do I get more pills? Do I get stronger pills? I didn't want to get on Oxy. I didn't want that to happen to me. I've seen it happen to so many people. I just never wanted to get an Oxy script because I knew that if I got an Oxy script with my kind of personality, it wouldn't take very long before I'm on needles and some bullshit. So I never wanted to take the Oxy. So I said to the doctor, what can I do about this? And they're like, well, we can give you more pills. And I was like, you know what? Fuck all that. I didn't want it. And I quit cold turkey. I was on a couple different medications. I was taking morphine, baclofen, which is a pretty strong muscle relaxer. I was taking anti-inflammatory and like Tylenol and ibuprofen every day. Like a lot of like chemicals in my body. I stopped taking all of them. I took 2 weeks off work. Yeah, I said to my doctor, I was like, yo, this is what I'm
poor
doing.
Organs, dude.
Well, you know what's funny, man? Drinking a Mickey a day, eating fucking a fistful of Percocet, and every time I've ever gone to get my vitals checked with my blood work, everything's A-OK.
It's miraculous how some people's body can just handle it, you know? And you're one of those people, man.
Yeah, I'm lucky,
those
too.
things aren't supposed to really be combined, let alone in fistfuls.
No, they're not. But I got off opiates in July, so I quit taking them.
Question I was going to ask you before you continue the story, and I really want you to continue because it's awesome hearing about it in hindsight. You know what I mean? As you know, as horrible and depressing as it is, I think it's important, and it's could be important for people to hear. Right? I was going to ask you originally when you were first actually prescribed opiates and you were going through pain and you were legitimately using them for pain before it became an addiction. So were you using them in the way they were prescribed ever, or were you always kind of abusing them from the moment you were in that situation?
Well, I'll say this. Opiates is not something to fuck around with. It gives you a feeling like all of the cracks and holes in your being are being filled with like God. It's not good. It is. It's not good. It's not good because it's incredible, right? So the first time I took opiates, so I was dealing with chronic pain since I was 14. When I was 15, I had to leave the basketball team, and I had to get a note from my doctor saying that I couldn't finish phys ed. I was eating 16 Tylenol, extra strength Tylenols a day, which is 4 grams, which is like the toxic limit. But I was doing that 16 Tylenols a day until I was 17. And I said to the doctor, I was like, man, I don't think I'm supposed to be eating this much acetaminophen. He's like, what the fuck? I was like, oh my God, okay, we got to get a blood work done through your liver. And we're going to get you on something that's, you know, less pills and more strength. So the first time that I took it, I was 17. And I remember it. Like, I remember it plain as day. The first time that I took it, I was sitting down for dinner at my dad's house. And I was talking to him. And halfway through my sentence, my head kind of just, like, rolled back. And I just was staring at this popcorn ceiling. And I kind of just slunked into my chair, and my dad's girlfriend at the time was like, are you feeling your painkillers? And I'm like, holy fuck. And so the first time I took them, it was for therapeutic use, and every single time after that, I knew what I was doing.
Right.
I needed it. Like, I did need it. But I looked forward to it. And then I started taking it for emotional pain management, which is super useful. Until it isn't. And then that's when the problem happens, right? Like, it's okay, I'm feeling shitty, I'll take 2 Percocets, and you're going to feel golden, for sure. But if you're taking 2 Percocets every 3 hours for 10 years, you're not going to feel golden anymore. You're going to be doing way more, and you're going to be sick when you're not on them, and there's not going to be any normalcy to your life whatsoever in any regard, period. It's just you're never going to...
I can't imagine how there could be.
There can't be, because your life doesn't revolve around anything except for taking your next dose. It's the only thing that matters. Because if you don't take it, you're curled up, you're sick, you can't think, your whole body's like, your skin is like crawling off of you, you can't even think about anything. The only thing you're thinking about is like, well, I've got 3 more days until I'm done these pills, so I might as well go get a couple bottles of liquor and put myself to sleep because I can't do shit about this, right? It's horrible.
What a vicious cycle, man.
It is, man. And so I quit. I was like, I can't do this. It was against like the advice of all the medical professionals. And I was like, I don't really give a shit. I'm not taking these pills anymore. And I used to really pride myself on taking pills. Honestly, I used to pride myself on a drug user. I used to pride myself on having tolerances for these things and the life I live, because it was like, not the square, soft, corner edge life. You know, you see a lot of people living, you used to take pride in that. But then I'm like, man, I think maybe your priorities are a little fucked. And
Yeah.
so the main reason was I needed to try to get my back straight. The second reason was I was definitely not doing the right thing. So I just stopped. And it was hell. It was the worst shit I've ever experienced for 2 weeks. And then it was the best thing I ever experienced after that. Like being sober off opiates feels better than being on them now.
Wow.
Because I have that balance. I have that kind of perspective, right?
Amazing.
And then 6 months ago, is this the third week of March? Almost. So 6 months ago, I quit drinking alcohol, which was the second best decision I've made in my life.
So how long were you able to stay clean off opiates while continuing to drink alcohol?
Oh, I stopped taking opiates and never took them again.
And how long ago was that now?
That was July. So
okay.
10 months or so.
Wow.
And then I quit drinking. And then I quit drinking altogether too. And that was really easy.
I know a lot of people can't keep drinking after they quit opiates, you know, because it's like will lead them to taking opiates again.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've heard that. Like you shouldn't really drink around people who have had other addictions.
Oh, well, I guess I understand that. Like, obviously everybody's different. People drinking around me doesn't bother me. People using drugs around me doesn't bother me because I'm not living their life, and they don't know anything about mine. Like, I was at the bar last night. I had a buddy that was leaving, and I had a couple friends wanted to bid him a farewell, so we went down to the bar, and everybody's drinking, you know, having a time, and he's sober. And he was like the guy that kind of showed me that I could get sober. So the two of us were sober, chilling. And it's not a thing. Like, and I think maybe being here helps too, because these people are very supportive, right? Like, I'll go to the bar. I remember I went to the bar this one time because I love the bar. I love the bar. So it's not like I'm gonna stop going to the bar because I don't drink. That just doesn't even make sense to me. I go to the bar for the atmosphere.
Okay.
And you know what I'm saying? So like, I go to the bar this one day. I had a shit day at work and everything. I go to the bar, they're like, all right, hey, Joel, what do you want? And I was like, yeah, just give me a double whiskey. Just give me a double whiskey. And the bartender's like, okay, so coffee? I was like, fuck.
He caught you.
Yeah, I was, yes, coffee. He's like, all right, bro, sit down here, your shit.
Yeah, that wouldn't happen in St. Catharines.
No, hell no. Hell no.
Well, that's incredible, man. And so I didn't realize exactly how recent all this was, man.
Real recent. Like I'm still recovering from the opiates. I can feel it in my body still.
Oh, I can imagine that. That'll take some time, eh?
Yeah, the doctor said 1 year to 2 years it could, but it's not the kind of feeling that makes me want to do them. Like I don't know if you've ever experienced withdrawal, but it's like it's visceral. Like you need to strap yourself to a chair. Like I had to go and get my sister to watch me. You're like, I can't leave here. Take my fucking keys, take my wallet, take everything, and I'm on this couch. Because like if I walked out of that door, man, you're not even thinking. You're just like, get the fucking whatever you need to get this feeling to go away. But realistically, the feeling doesn't go away. You just prolong it until you die at that point. Right? So
wow.
Yeah, man, and what's crazy to me, to bring it all back to music, is how much, like, user, like, what's the word I was looking for? Like, a user persona is like, put up on a pedestal in hip-hop now. Like that meme, you listen to drug addict music and we grew up listening to drug dealing music or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, now I guess I can just say this anyway. I find valid points for both and I find negative points for both, you know? But realistically, if you want to break it down to the black and whites, like drug dealing music is about making money, and drug using music is about making yourself feel better. And not everybody is going to start dealing drugs, but almost everybody's on a prescription for something, and it's like not difficult to go to the fucking high school and figure out what kind of, supply you need for the weekend from your friends, right? And then
Yeah.
you just start fucking around with drugs. And don't get me wrong, I love drugs, I do, but when you don't understand what's happening and you fall into one of these modes, you're going to ruin your entire life.
100%.
And there's no two ways about that. Like there's no two ways about that. Even if you get on track and everything starts working out for you later in life, like this guy, I'm fucking 32 years old. Okay? I lost 16 years to drugs and alcohol. Easily 16 years to drugs and alcohol, because I thought I was trying to do, like, in my mind, the right thing, what I thought was right, and just with zero perspective or anything about, what I was doing. And so yeah, sometimes when I hear some types of music or some conversations about certain things, it's like, oh man, it hurts me to hear that. I know how you're feeling. I remember being 20. I'm sure, like, it kind of makes me think about our parents when you're like, you don't know shit, right? And then your mom's like,
One day.
I'm gonna beat you to death if you don't listen to me right. Because they know, man. Like, I don't know if my parents knew, to be honest. I think they didn't know shit. But like me, for instance, talking to somebody who's 19 years old, I know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what I like to talk about. Like, I talk about drug use, for sure. I talk about drug use. I talk about all kinds of sordid shit. But I also am talking about it with a reflective eye, and it's analytical, and there's a philosophy in there somewhere, right? It's not just blatant promotion of illicit drug use and whatnot, right?
Right.
And I think that that's important, and that's kind of like that kind of clarity that I got from being sober and living here is like next level. Like, I literally feel like I've gone to a whole new level of existence.
Yeah, it's fucking
And
incredible.
it is incredible, and the music is reflecting that. Like, it's crazy. So I haven't had roadblock, writer's block since I discovered the style of writing in the wilderness, I suppose you could call it. Yeah, man, it's nice.
When it comes to I'm gonna butcher this, but Terrence McKenna, I think it was, said something along the lines of, in the future, instead of people discussing different places they've been or different things that they own or have purchased, they'll discuss different substances that they've used to bring their minds to explore different realms or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I think human beings, and I think particularly this younger generation, I think we're looking for something to replace the psychedelic experience. I think at one point, the psychedelic experience was integral to being a human in certain societies, some of the more advanced ones, as we're discovering. And I think that a lot of the, when you're an adolescent and you do a lot of this excessive drinking and drug use, I think that we're trying to replace, like, you're supposed to explore different realms of consciousness. Like, you're supposed to explore different states of consciousness and learn about your own mind and figure out, if I do this, then this is what my mind does. If I do this, that's what my mind does. And I think that to some degree in the music, even though there is some unfortunate, like, blatant promotion of some pretty dangerous substances to get addicted to, what I find fascinating about it is, like, as you said, a lot of people in America, especially, well, hell, I'll say North America, are prescribed one substance or another. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, whether it's Adderall or whether it's Xanax, or, you know, these are the popular ones that kind of get rapped about. And the music, like, for example, lean was big for a long time, right? I used to sip a bit of lean. And when you listen to music that is by people who were sipping lean, and you're sipping lean, you get that music and you get where it's coming from. You know what I mean? So I
100%,
imagine, like,
100%.
you do a Xanax, you're going to fucking really understand some of these new young rappers a little better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's
No, for
like, in a
sure.
way, I think of that Terrence McKenna quote because it's almost like they're exploring different states of consciousness and then making their art there. Now, these are just the different substances that are accessible to us and popular, you know, and prescribed to everybody and like massively produced. If instead of, you know, Xanax and Percocets and lean and alcohol, it was like mushrooms and fucking ayahuasca and peyote and, like, you know, like the natural, you know, almost ceremonial rites of
Yeah.
passage kind of psychedelics that you would do as an adolescent, way back in the day. Now as an adolescent, we drink our faces off. You need to do something to help you pass through from childhood to adulthood, because it's traumatic, right? Being a
Yeah.
teenager is traumatic. Going through those years is traumatic. You're losing your childhood forever, you know?
Yeah.
And you have to, there's a lot of pressure to figure out who you are and become it fast. And I think that in the past, they used to do these rites of passages and these, you know, other sort of things, to these sort of ritualistic things to help guide people through adolescence and into adulthood or whatever. And we don't have that anymore. So people just be getting fucked up instead because that's all that's around. So that was kind of a big spiel, but that's kind of the way that I like to look at the music. Is like it's a reflection of the state of consciousness that they're in, part A. And part B is that, yeah, I think that this is what people are meant to do to some degree. We're just doing it with really unfortunate, dangerous substances that you can get addicted to and kill yourself and ruin your life with, you know? But I love
Yeah,
what
man.
you
Like,
said about if you fall into one of these paths or cycles, and you don't know what you're doing, it's extremely dangerous, you know? So it might be fun making some Xanax music, but you don't understand what's happening to your brain, you know, as you're doing that all the time, or something like Adderall or like whatever. Like you
yeah.
know, you're falling into that cycle of addiction. And a lot of times when you're young, you don't realize it until it's too late, because you're having fun, because you're filling that void. And it's helping you find who you are in a sense too. Like, you find your identity through it. Like you said, I'm the guy who's got the tolerance for this, that, or the other, you know?
Yeah.
So it's interesting, man. But I think the way that you now, having gotten through all that and found your, like, kind of found your pen again, you can talk about these things in like a more reflective way. And I think that that's awesome, because people need to hear
Yeah,
it.
man. Like, this is gonna sound counterintuitive, but for me, the person who I am now and what I know and what I represent, how I act and how I emote and understand things, is 100% the product of drug use and alcoholism. Right?
Right, of course, man.
It is. It is. Like, that's undeniable. My brain is different now. And when you're talking about Terrence McKenna, like, it made me think of this. I was in, like, I don't know if it was grade school or high school. I don't know when it is that they start talking about like your anatomy and how your brain works and all this stuff. But I remember when I learned that the brain operates on electrical signals and chemicals, right? So you have electrical signals through your you know, neurons and fucking activity that happens in your brain connecting the different parts of your fatty tissues and all that. And then you have chemicals, right? You've got your happy chemicals, your dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, all these things. You are like experiencing things, right? Like I'm of the mind to say pretty definitively, as far as you can in a scientific context, that I am not like I'm not my body. I am not putting out. What I'm doing is I'm receiving and reacting essentially. And so if I'm looking through my window and I'm seeing trees, I'm seeing a building, I'm seeing the ocean, that's what I'm understanding as my reality. If I were to change the blood flow in my frontal lobe and shut down the chatter in my default mode network and create a little bit more more neuroactivity in the rest of my brain through the use of maybe psilocybin, I'll see maybe not trees. Maybe I'll see, or I will see trees, but they'll be blooming. And I'll see the clouds melt into the ocean. And I'll see myself disintegrate into the ether. And for one, it's very humbling. For two, you start having experiences that are real because this is reality. Like, as far as you know, what you're seeing isn't even really what you're seeing. It's what your brain is telling you you're seeing, right? Like, everything is an interpretation. So, like, you know, with that kind of understanding, I can adjust my brain so that I can experience reality differently. That's what I learned when I was hearing about how your brain works. It's like, oh, so you're telling me that happiness is dumping a bunch of serotonin into my brain. Well, that seems like an easy workaround. That seems like a stupid easy workaround. How do we get serotonin? All right, let's figure that out. It's not very difficult. There's like 6 substances that'll do it. Sweet. Or I can have sex, right? Or you can also climb a mountain or go swimming. Like, there's tons of things that you can do. But the thing is, like, once I understood that I was in control of at least what I'm receiving or how I'm receiving it, I started to get on that train. And for a couple reasons. For one, like, I mean, it's a mod. It's an upgrade. Like, you have, like, what we're seeing with our eyes and what we hear with our ears and taste and feel is like basic. This is like right? Like, this is your basic perception of reality.
Yes.
Then you have drugs, and drugs are like keys. I always look at it like, you know what dip switches are? You'd have in like a machine, you'd have like a panel with a bunch of switches and they go up or down or 0, right? So it's like a binary code. You just change a bunch of switches and the machine operates differently, right? So that's like you take you take drugs and your machine operates differently. And it can be a very beautiful thing. Like, I love psychedelics. I will probably never stop taking psychedelics. I mean, I don't care. I don't care if it's illegal or not, because first of all, morality isn't based on legislation. And secondly, I can see real, actual things occur when I am taking psychedelic substances. And also, psychedelic substances aren't something that's habit forming. Like, you can't, it's not like you can just get blitted on acid every day of your life.
No, it ain't gonna work.
Living. Yeah, right. You're like, you live in a cartoon now, you know, and there are people who are like that, and I mean, I don't know what they're experiencing, but they don't look like they're really here.
Yeah,
maybe that's the goal.
They're not here. Yeah, that's the
they're
thing.
Not. Maybe it's somewhere totally else. Maybe they found the answer. I don't know. But like the difference between like cocaine and acid to me is like obvious, right?
Oh yeah, you can go about your life doing cocaine all day long, and people may notice you're a little fucking zoinked, but you can still go about your life. You know what I'm saying? Acid and mushrooms, you need to set a day aside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You ain't getting through your day-to-day human functions on psychedelics. It just ain't happening. They need to be an experience you kind of set aside, right? Whereas like the habit forming drugs, you could just, like alcohol, pills, fucking coke, you can just go about your life and roll with, you know? I mean, I guess stuff like heroin is a different story, but it ain't like
not even really though. Like, so I was eating
heroin and just live.
I was like, yeah, like functioning junkies.
Well, I guess
Functioning junkies.
morphine, you were kind of doing that with morphine, right? Kind of pretty much
Well,
heroin.
yeah, man, especially at the levels that I'm doing. Like I was taking enough opiates per dose to put somebody asleep for the day. And
Oh,
like
I'd be gonzo.
and that's
Gonzo.
what I'm saying, man. Like I would wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and take like I'd wake up at 6 o'clock in the morning and take 5 Percocets, right? And be like, all right, now I'm ready to do stuff. Like you would never know. You would think I was on drugs if I wasn't on drugs.
That's so bananas, man. That's
You
so
know?
wild. Like some people would drink a coffee, 5
Yeah. I'd take
Percocets.
5 or 6 Percocets, maybe snort a couple of them. Like, man, I remember I remember coming off my drugs and I go over to my sister's house and she's like, holy fuck, Joel, what did you do? What did you do? And I was like, what are you talking about? She's like, your pupils are fucking like dilated, like dinner plates, right? You know, cocaine eyes. I
Yeah.
was like, I swear to God, I did nothing. She's like, look at you. I look at myself in the mirror. I'm like, holy shit. It was because I didn't have any opiates in my body. And I was like,
Wow.
I just felt weak and fucked. And my eyes are like, bing. And she's like, fess up. And I'm like, I swear to God, I'm
That's
clean.
hilarious. It's the opposite
But
of what you think.
yeah, man, like man, you can be a functioning drug addict, 100%, man. Like the amount of drugs that I was doing just to like be alive on a normal basis, to feel normal, it was like obscene.
Oh, well, yeah.
And
I mean, I had no idea that. I mean, other than from listening to your music, I really like from all the times that I would have seen you and hung out with you and all that shit. I had no idea you were fucking on hella drugs.
man,
No
anytime that
idea.
you've probably ever seen me in your life, I've been on Percocet and alcohol.
Yeah, it's wild, man.
It is, and it's not ideal, man.
I
And
think it's far from ideal. I think it's
and
far
that's
from
what I'm
ideal.
saying. But like with that Terrence McKenna stuff, man, and like all of that, like I am 100% down with that, man. Like I I understand it. I live that myself. Like I believe in psychedelics. I believe that you should definitely be going through these experiences because like that's really all you have. And the only thing that you can really share beyond some material things is your knowledge and your wisdom. And the only way that you can ever put any of those into practice is through understanding. So if you don't know what the fuck is going on, like you're not really here. And I feel like through my psychedelic experiences that I didn't really know what was going on until I had done them. You know, like you're
100%,
saying,
bro. 100%. Like that's
like
a great
do
way.
you
That's a great way to explain the life-changing effect it can have. It's like I
it's just
really
and
didn't
it's
know
odd.
what the fuck was going on until I had those experiences. I have a whole
Yeah.
different outlook on life, and I always have since, and I always will, and it ain't changing.
And man, there's like some weird things that occur too. You have synchronicities, like you and friends in a circle will be like on the same wave. Like
Oh yeah.
it's odd. It almost feels like with substances like acid and mushrooms and mescaline and things like that, that it's like you're accessing more of that universal consciousness outside of like your husk. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like when you take your rabbit ears. Oh shit! I don't know how much of your demographics can understand this. If you know rabbit ear TVs,
Oh
and
yeah.
you're getting a horrible signal, but then what you do is you just grab a whole bunch of fucking tinfoil or like maybe some more wire, and you tie it to the end of the rabbit ear, and then you wrap it around your whole fucking room, and then boom, you got forever, right? It's like that. Like so we're stuck in these stunted husks of like human skin and trying to understand life through a couple chemicals that get dumped into your brain every now and then. But then you're like, okay, well, here's 7 grams of fucking mushrooms. Okay, boom, right? And you're just like,
Yeah.
it's like you just hooked up your rabbit ears to fucking the space center, and all of a sudden you can pick up everything in the galaxy, right? It's
Yeah.
it's weird. Like, do you remember? Do you remember it was you, Chuck, and me, and we ate a bunch of mushrooms, and we went down to the park, and it was like dawn.
I
We
was
were
going
like
to
lying
mention
on the
that when you
grass.
were talking about synchronicities and moments you have with your friends on mushrooms. There's a few
Right?
mushroom trips in my life where that was just so, and that was one of them. It was just like everything was just so perfect,
It was
you know?
fucked.
Yeah, yeah, that was so, you know what? Man, I don't know if you even remember, but fucking, I tell people this story sometimes. It was at the very beginning of that night, and that whole thing. That was the only time I ever did shrooms while drinking. Okay, and fucking,
Okay.
because we had all been out. I forget what event it was. There was some fucking event downtown, and we were everybody was out there. You know what I mean? All the
Yeah.
fucking faces, right? And then I
Yeah.
know that we were all drinking, and it was like coming time to go home, and then you offered me and Chuck to come do shrooms. And
Sounds about right.
yeah, I forget who else. I feel like there was more people there, but it really ended up just being us three. Oh yeah, and Zone was there. And
Yeah, so
and Luke was there for part of it, but he left when we did the shroom. But anyway,
yeah.
but the funny thing I was gonna say is we were all out there talking about doing the mushrooms, and someone mentioned it, and then a car was rolling by. And when someone said, "Oh yeah, let's go do some mushrooms," the person who was in the car rolling by said, "Be careful," as they're rolling by. So it was
What?
fucking, yeah, it
I
was like a
don't remember
split
that.
second
No.
thing. Because I was like, "Oh yeah, should we do some shrooms tonight?" Be careful. It was fucking hilarious, right? And then so that was one of those things. And then
Okay.
yeah, the whole night after that was like almost kind of a big disaster. Like it was just like super fucky and like until it got to the point where it was like morning and it was just us three at the park and the sun started coming up and we all just picked a spot on the playground and we just had a
Yep.
dope conversation and then just sat there in silence with the sun coming up,
Dude,
first
we're
thing in the
sitting
morning.
there. We're sitting there in silence, right? And I'm staring at the sky. I'm on my back staring at the sky, and I'm seeing some kind of like a double helix vortex come out of my fucking forehead and like shoot up through like a blue sky with some wispy clouds and open up like a portal. And I'm hearing an audible voice talk to me in my head, right? And I'm listening to it. And I'm like, tripping out. Like, you're on mushrooms, your eyes are crying. So you're just like sitting there, like
Oh
crying. I'm
yeah.
just like crying in a field, listening to like what sounds like God inside of my head. And all I hear is Chuck go, yeah, yeah. I don't know about you guys, but I just had a conversation with God. And I'm like, what the fuck? I was like, no, man, did this happen to you? He's like, yeah. I'm like, what the fuck, man? We're just
Dude,
having the same trip, like 10 feet away from each other.
holy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
Oh
wild.
man, that was special.
That was special, man.
That was
That
real
was
special. That was real special. That was a great experience.
for sure, man. And like that's something that I try not to regret actions anyway, but like doing things like mushrooms and stuff like that, like that's like a tool. Like, even if it goes wrong. Like, and for me it never has. I don't know why. I feel like I have a lot of control over my brain, not in areas of compulsion, but in areas of thought processing. And when I'm experiencing psychedelics, I am in total control of what's going on for the most part. And like anytime that I've ever had a vibe come that was negative, I just flip it. I just flip it in my head. Nope, we're going to ignore that. We're going to pick this up instead. All right, boom, there goes that dark space. And I'm back into like the light. You know what I mean? I mean, I've heard horrible, horrible horror stories. And it's like,
Yeah,
wow, I don't know where you were. I don't know what was going on with your head. You might not have been in the right frame of mind to eat a bunch of like
certainly.
amplified narcotics.
Yeah,
But
no, because you ultimately like the beautiful thing that obviously you can't put into words a lot of the realizations that you have on mushrooms. But the beautiful thing is you really realize that you are in control of what you choose to focus on at any given moment, and mushrooms are a tool for practicing that. I
yeah,
haven't had a bad trip. I'd say all of, like you said, all of the experiences I've had personally have been positive.
yeah,
And even when they haven't been the greatest experiences, they were experiences I really needed. And for me, I haven't had a bad trip, but I've had a couple that were like really introspective self dissections that were
yeah,
very uncomfortable, like
yeah.
very
But that's not
uncomfortable
the
to have.
same. right?
I really needed it, you know, and
Yeah.
it's like, you know, when you do it, you kind of have the way up. It's almost like a roller coaster. You kind of have the way up, and then it's kind of a roller coaster, and then but after that, it kind of levels out, and you kind of just have this beautiful, joyous experience. The phase of the trip that was just the beautiful, joyous experience that comes after one of those really self-dissecting and shitty, uncomfortable ways up is worth it, you know. And then
Oh yeah.
the changes that you can, in effect, bring to your life as a result of that introspection is unbelievable. You know, I never saw myself so clearly. It
Yeah.
was as if took my eyes out of my own head and turned them on myself. You know what I mean? Like, figuratively speaking, internally,
Yeah.
really looking at myself as if I was somebody else, but still knowing everything that goes on inside of me. You know what I mean? It was
Yeah.
like as if I was God looking at me. You know, that was
Yeah.
the perspective. But I was still me. And you know, I'm sitting there, you know, crying because I realize all the ways that um, I could be doing better, and I could be um, better serving the people around me and stuff like that. And it's not necessarily, like I said, it's not an experience to shy away from. And I do tell people that so that they're aware that if you're a self-conscious person and if you have stuff that you're guilty about or beat yourself up about,
Wear a helmet.
psychedelics ain't gonna hide that shit from you. You know what I mean? It's going
Nope.
to bring it to the forefront so that you face it, and then once you face it, it'll be like, okay, now here's your true oneness with everything and how that
Yeah.
feels, motherfucker. You know,
Yeah. Man, you know,
get
like
back
one of the
here
things
by
that,
fixing all that other shit.
man, one of the things that bothers me the absolute most about, okay, so this kills me. This just absolutely kills me. When like you'll be somewhere or whatever, say it's like a little mushroom party's happening, you know, it's a couple people on the beach or whatever, this and that. And then there's always like that one person, right? And it's like, oh hey, yeah, do you want some mushrooms? And they're like, oh no, I can't, I hate the taste. And it's like, what did you just say to me? I hate the taste. Yeah, motherfucker, I hate the taste too. It's got nothing to do with the taste.
Yeah,
It's got
you don't
nothing to
do it
do with
for
the
the taste.
taste.
Yeah, I ain't
We're
offering
not
you a
eating
snack, my dude.
Yeah, I'm not bringing you a bag of sustenance for your stomach. I'm bringing you fucking mind tools, bro. Like, you eat them, you throw up a little bit, and then you trip for 10 hours. Like, what the
Yeah.
fuck?
Yeah, no, I really hate the taste. Like, people laugh at me when they watch me eat mushrooms, but I go through it every time because I know that it ain't about the goddamn taste.
Ezza, I got to tell you something. So my boy put me onto this, and it's easily the single best way ever to do mushrooms. I will never do it. Well, I would prefer to never do it any other way again, but obviously, if I'm in a place
If
where
you
I'm
have to,
going
you
to eat
have to.
mushrooms, and I'll eat the mushrooms. But okay, so do you know what lemon tech is?
No.
All right. Prepare for the fucking recipe that'll change your life.
This should be
You
good
get
because I really hate eating mushrooms.
okay, so you get an ounce of mushrooms, okay? And you got 28 grams of mushrooms, so you're gonna take 28 liquid ounces of lemon juice, right?
So equal
And you're
parts.
equal parts. So you're going to but liquid ounces and material ounces, dried
Right.
ounces.
Gotcha.
Sorry, 28 grams of dried mushroom and 28 liquid ounces of lemon tech. So yeah,
Cool.
and then of lemon juice. And then so what you do is you grind up the mushrooms and you sit them in the lemon juice, shake it up a little bit, and let it sit there like in the fridge for like 2 hours or so, 2-3 hours. Then you take out the lemon juice and you filter it through like a coffee filter or something, and you want to take out like all the solid particulates, right? So that all you're left with is the lemon juice. What's happened is the mushroom contains psilocybin. Psilocybin, when you eat it, metabolizes in your body into psilocin. So the process of metabolizing psilocybin for some people can be extremely uncomfortable. That's usually what leads to vomiting and indigestion and horrible
Yeah, I
problems
get
inside your
indigestion
stomach.
from them.
So when you put it in the lemon juice, it'll metabolize the psilocybin into psilocin. Okay, so then what you do is you add a little bit of water or something to just kind of cut how tart the lemon is, and then you'll add in like a couple spoonfuls of honey, and you're just going to shake that around. And what's going to happen is you're going to be left with like 30 ounces of this fucking liquid gold lemonade. And because it's already metabolized, you don't have to wait half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour and a half to be like, are these going to kick if I eat more? Am I going to destroy myself? Like, what is happening? So with the lemon tech, you take that, you drink the psilocybin by like, I mean, obviously this depends totally on the potency of your mushrooms. But what we were doing, I can't even remember what strain they were, so I couldn't even tell you. But I was just taking like a mouthful, glug, 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 and then swallow it. 10 minutes later, I'm riding it up. And you know how usually when you'll take mushrooms, for me anyway, I'll take mushrooms and then I'll hit that peak, and then I just, doesn't matter if I take more mushrooms, I'm not going to get any higher. I'm not going to prolong it. I'm just there, right?
Yeah.
With the lemon tech, so man, you're sipping on this and you're like, okay, all right. You're like, as you're sipping on it, you're feeling yourself. So the last time I did it, I knew exactly what I wanted. I was going out to the beach and I wanted to see specifically the sky become like a pastel landscape that would like smudge into the horizon on the earth and just blend with everything. That's what I wanted to see. So I had my cup of tech and I'm sipping on it, sipping, and I can feel myself really starting to get there, right? I'm like, okay, sip a little bit more, sip just a little bit more. I'm like, oh, I don't want to drink too much, drink a little bit more. And then my buddy cracks off this joke. And so by this time, I'm already getting like pretty decent visuals, and he was cracking on this guy's face, this look that this guy was making. And he said, I don't even know what he said. It was the funniest shit I had ever heard at that point. I just fucking gut-busting laugh. I just let out this roaring laugh. And it was like, as I exhaled this laugh, I heard like an audible pop, and the whole fucking world went, and I was like, holy shit. And that was it, right? Like, I laugh, this like knot pops in my dome. I can feel it like right here. Pop! Like pressure. Pop! I heard it, and I swear to God, it was like the sky just started to drip. Like, it just started dripping. And like all the trees were like this, right?
Oh my
God. And the sky is just melting. And I just sat down. I'm like weeping because like you start tripping, you love on mushrooms and just crying the whole time. So I was sitting there weeping, just looking at this inlet, and everything is just one. It's like you've never been so certain that the entire existence is one when your three-dimensional perspective is turned into a two-dimensional watercolor painting.
That's a great quote right there.
But you can feel it, right? Like you can feel that it is. You can see it. You're like, this is proof. I can see it.
Yes.
And it gives you a very odd, surreal type of knowledge of yourself. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain. Like, this is the thing, like you said before, like you can't explain psychedelics to somebody who has never done them. I don't know how to explain it to you, right? But the moral of that story was, if you're gonna eat mushrooms, make the lemon too.
Yeah, that is incredible. Everything about that story was fantastic, and I really need to try that. Walk around summertime sipping on psychedelic lemonade, baby. What can be private stock? And I like that. Yeah, the private stock. I like that you can control your trip. You know what I'm saying? You kind of, take a sip, get to exactly where you want to be, though I'm sure once that pop happened, you went to some unexpected places,
Oh man, when that pop happened, actually, to be perfectly honest, when that pop happened, I had about like, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes of just excellent, beautiful, just beautiful. Everything was beautiful. And then, I won't get into it, but then just some horrible shit happened. And it was like, whoa. And that was like super jarring to like be in the midst of just like an incredibly horrible situation that occurred instantly. And then where you were at before, everything is beautiful. Holy fuck. It was.
That's always my fear with psychedelics, is that something horrible is going to happen, like outside of the trip.
Like it didn't happen to me, but I was like in the presence of just some horrible shit that had just instantly happened, right?
Yeah, even that is I can't imagine how that would feel, because reality is so hyper intimate, when you're in that state. Everything feels like it's for you in a way.
It was, it's something, man. Like, honestly, you just have a different understanding of priorities in your relationship to the world when you're experiencing it through psychedelics. Like, dude, can I tell you another psychedelic story?
Hell yeah, man. That's what this is. This is Ezza Trips Balls, man. That's what this was supposed to be about. We got all these rappers talking about rap on here, man. I'm trying to hear some tripping stories.
Man, I've got a fucking story for you. Blew my whole mind.
All right, this should be good.
So, this was in the summer. And I was just like back to back, 3 different calls from 3 of my best boys who are all telling me just some horrible shit that happened to them. And it's like, I'm sitting here, I feel helpless because like all these guys are in St. Catharines. I can't do shit. I can't do nothing but be an ear, right? And it's hard for me because at this point I was like battling with trying to quit drinking. I hadn't quit drinking at this point. I was drinking pretty heavily. And doing drugs and all kinds of nonsense and all this. So I heard like I had these calls come in from my boys, and there was nothing I could do about it. And the way that I kind of would cope with things then was, well, let's get stupid twisted and forget that anything has happened, right? And so that was my goal. And I started calling around for plugs somewhere. Somebody give me something. I need some shit. And there was nothing. So I end up getting a link on some, go to somebody's house, and this ketamine, right? Now I didn't know it was, because like these lines that was chalked up were fucking massive Hollywoods, and I thought this was cocaine for sure, right? I'm like, oh, sure. I'm like, sure. I'm like, a Mickey and like 5 beers deep, just out of it, and looking for something. I was like, I need something, right? Like, so this is what I'm talking about before when we were talking about the problem with like addictive natures and drug and leaning on drug use. I needed something, right? So I am offered this fucking big like line. I think is cocaine. Yeah, big Gagger. And I'm like, all right, sweet. I sit down, boom, I rip this thing, and I look at my buddy, and I'm like, what the fuck was that? He's like, you're going to want to sit down. I'm like, holy fuck.
Fuck.
So I never actually had done K before this point in my life ever, because I was afraid of the K-hole, right? You always hear about that. When I heard about it the first time when I was in high school, and somebody's like, yo, man, hey, you want to try some K? And I was like, oh, cool, tranquilizer? That sounds fun. And then somebody else is like, don't fall in the K-hole. And I'm like, fuck
that. Yeah.
Because I had seen people in it, right? And I'm like, that is one helpless motherfucker right there.
That's a nightmare.
You would think so. So this is what happens. I would never, ever do this drug around people. This is the first thing that I learned, because this is how the high went. I rip this line, and I have about 30 seconds for my buddy to tell me to sit down and get comfortable.
Wow.
My brain turns off and I'm transported to the body and the mind of a person who I can only assume has some kind of like South American origin. This would be like thousands of years ago. And like I opened my eyes, like I was just blinking, and I'm like holding like a stake on my shoulder that's stretched across me and the guy in front of me, and we got like a hog, a boar on it, right? That we had just hunted. And we're climbing up like a cliffside ledge, right? So like I'm looking up on my left side, and it's like rock cliffs. If you picture Venezuela, it would give you a really good idea. So like there's like this rock cliff, and it goes up. So I'm like I look up, and I notice that it goes up maybe about more 20 feet or so. On my right side is a sheer drop down like forever, and there's a river down there, and then in front of me is this waterfall that's falling like 100 meters. And the path I'm on is like 4 feet wide, and we got this hog. So I just remember we climb up, and it take about maybe 2 minutes, and I'm at the top, and we turn the corner, and there's this village, and it's built kind of just back from the side of this cliff. So like you walk into like the village center where they would be like, they had started preparing a fire, and we bring the hog over to the women who are there, and they cut and clean, bone out the hog and everything, and they start like cooking it. And I sit down with my boys, who we had just come back from a hunt. I come back and sit down with my boys. We're passing around like a leather sack of water, and we're just sitting there, and I'm exhausted, and I'm sitting on this log, and I'm just looking across. There's like a fire to my right with a bunch of like pig meat being cooked on it. There's this waterfall to my left, and just like lush jungle in front of me, canopy rising. We were like on the top of like a plateau, like way up, high altitude. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, wow. I felt like I was very pleased. I had no knowledge that I was a person who lived in 2019 on an island in British Columbia. Zero knowledge of that. I was a man. I was an indigenous South American man by like all qualitative properties I could assume, sitting on the top of like a high altitude plateau with a kill that we just got, and I was satisfied with my life. I'm just like, this is fucking awesome. I get up, we have dinner, we start dancing, there's music, I go back to my hut, I fall asleep, and I wake up on the couch, right?
That's
how my trip ended. And so I spent 1 day, right? Okay, so but check this, because it gets crazier. So I spent 1 day as another man, right? So when I went to bed in the hut, and I woke up on the couch, my buddy seen me coming to, and he comes over and he just puts his arms around me, and he's like, chill, because I was like, what the fuck? I thought I was tripping from the other life coming into this one.
Bro!
And I didn't know where I was. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know I was scared. I was more scared coming back to this reality than I was entering the other one.
Oh my God.
My buddy's like, are you okay? After a while, he's like, do you remember who you are? I was like, honestly, 5 minutes. I'm like, yeah, we're here. This is where you're you, I'm me. He's like, good, okay. You want another one? It's like, yep. So he racks me up another one. So as soon as I'm like chilled, I've got my breathing back, he racks me up another one. I hit it. I woke up in my bed in my other state on the high altitude plateau, and I lived for like a year there.
Get out of here.
I'm not joking. I had a family and everything. I'm not joking.
You went back to the same life.
Yeah, I woke up in bed.
What was this guy's bed like?
It's like it's like if you can picture like a hut the size of my living room here. So we got like a 10 by 10, maybe 10 by 10 hut with like kind of like it would be like a grass thatched mat with like some kind of padded textile on top of it, and it was like with maybe I think it was like maybe some furs or something like that. It was really comfortable, but it was on the floor. And like I have my woman with me and like my baby on my side.
Oh my
And
God. And so okay. So you wake up now back in this guy's
yeah.
life. Do you feel like what you just experienced as Joel on the couch in British Columbia was some sort of fucked up dream that you just had?
Well, when I
Or
woke
do
up,
you just forget that again completely and you're just 100% this guy again with no memory of being you?
yeah. So like when I woke up in the other reality, I don't know how else I would say it. When I woke up in the other reality, um, it was like was waking up from a dream. You know how you get like a glimpse or something, and then 5 minutes later you forget it all about it.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I was a person that lived anywhere else. Like I had woken up from a dream, kissed my baby on her cheek, and go out and live for like a year in this like tribal village. When I came back from that trip, I was like fucked because I spent so much time there. I spent like a year there. I come back and I'm like, now I'm sitting on this couch and I'm like, I'm actually not certain what's real anymore. I honestly,
Well,
I'm
no
honestly,
shit. I'm not certain what's real anymore just hearing that fucking story.
dude, I did it 3 times. I went back one more time.
Okay.
And I went back.
Okay, no, go ahead.
Yeah, so I went back the 3rd time and I tried to have
This is
as
all
much.
in the same night.
Yeah. It was like, so these highs last like 15 minutes. So like I did this whole thing in like an hour and a half. I lived for like a year and a half in this other place.
So all 3 of these highs were the same length from this world's perspective.
Yeah.
But in that perspective, you were okay. So the first time you were there for let's like a day,
Like
a night, half a day or whatever. Yeah, till the guy went to bed. Second time, also a 15-minute trip. You're there for a year. Same guy's life.
Yeah.
And
Now,
how much memory do you retain? Just out of curiosity, before you move on, how much memory do you retain from that year? Or does the third part of the story make that not even seem like anything?
No. What I can remember, I have a hard time remembering faces. Other than that, like I could detail you what like the village looked like. I could detail you like surrounding area, like the river with the waterfall. Like I remember it. I think
You
I
were
think
like a
back on it
tribe
fondly, like
of hunter
vacation.
gatherers kind of thing.
Yeah.
Incredible.
So I go back the 3rd time and I try to do it with as much intention as I possibly can. And now that I was just thinking about it, it's almost like, you know, when you hear people talk about DMT and they bust through and then there's the beings on the other side that are talking to you.
Yeah, I've heard about that.
So like I felt like I was the being talking to them, because I remember going back for the 3rd time and I come out on the other side and I'm not sleeping. I was like doing shit and I just pop into this other consciousness. And I just remember this feeling, and I wanted to tell these people, I'm here, but I'm not going to be able to stay for much longer, and I can't really explain why, and I'm not really sure what that means, but I just wanted to let everybody know that I love you, and I gotta go. And like hugged a bunch of people, walked around the village, gave my wife a kiss, and then and it was like as soon as I found that closure, I was out. That one lasted even shorter than the first trip. And you would say, oh, maybe it's because of consumption, but the second trip was a fucking like an entire year. So I really don't know how to explain it, dude, but that was by far the most intense and like revelatory experience that I had ever had, because it wasn't a dream and I wasn't in my body. I was a different thing in a different time, and I didn't even recognize the fact that I was me. I didn't look like me in the mirror. I didn't look like nothing. I didn't have any idea about the future, about modern technology. Maybe it would be easier to like use fucking ropes and shit. We'll haul this thing up the side of I had no idea. Like nothing. I was somewhere else. And even when I was like telling these people on my last trip that I was leaving, I didn't even really know what I was talking about. I was like,
you were
all I
obviously
know.
speaking a different language when you were there for a year, right? You're not speaking
So like,
English.
yeah, the way that I remember it is not like any verbal words. I don't remember any verbal words. I remember everything being kind of like emotional. You know what I mean? Like a wave.
Yeah.
Like we're looking at each other and we're having a mental conversation, but there's no sound, right? That's how I
Wow.
remember.
So you could have
It
pretty
was,
much existed in a time where language wasn't even fully, you know, utilized by man yet. I mean, I don't know how fucking evolution worked or when or how sophisticated hunter gatherers were with language. Let's say you were some super isolated tribe that didn't develop a language and really did communicate that way with each other, sort of with energy and emotions and intentions. I gotta go pee real bad though, so I'm gonna go do that. And you blew my fucking mind, so I also need to think for a minute.
okay, I'll be here. Yo.
Yeah, so goddamn, man, like I'm very happy that I got you on episode 50, bro, because I've had some crazy stories on the show and I've heard some crazy stories in my life. But that one is otherworldly, man. That shit is next.
You know what it makes me think of, man? I never had this thought until right now, until this little break. You know who Alan Watts is, eh?
Mm-hmm.
So I was
My
listening
favorite.
to right? So there's this playlist on Spotify called Pathist Voice that I've been listening to. And it's just like Alan Watts lectures that are set up in such a way that they run through each other and it just sounds like one homogenous kind of thought just as being expanded on, right?
That's dope. I need
And
to listen to that.
dude, you would love it.
I would.
The first one is I'm pretty sure the first episode is just called Creation Being One with the Universe or something like that. And you know Alan Watts' style where he's always like he's got a very playful voice and it's always like it's almost like everything he says is kind of funny because he's just like shocked
Yeah.
by how ridiculous everything is, right?
Yeah, he's having
And
fun.
yeah, he's having fun. And he said like he's like you are you and you are him and you are her and you are that bird and you are this. And what he's talking about is like you are the one, the conscious entity that persists through the universe.
Yes.
Right? He's like you as you experience yourself today is just the you that you have been through the universe, inhabiting forms, coming to fruition as this personification of molecular construction. He's like, when you die, you just leave behind your atoms and you inhabit reality and experience consciousness in a different way. And that's kind of like it's weird because like I don't know, like I don't know if this is me projecting onto the hallucination or if I had gone somewhere else, but I can tell you something. The aspects of life that I was vying for and dreaming about when I was living in the city doing mechanical work and small jobs was the quintessential essence of the life that I was living in this other dimensional existence where I was a hunter in the rainforest, right? Right now I live on Haida Gwaii, and every day more and more I feel more comfortable with myself because of the environment that I'm surrounded in. The environment of the place that I had experienced in my trip was very similar to here, but warmer. It was like I live in a rainforest right now, but it's like a cold rainforest. And I was living in a warm rainforest. The only qualm that I have with living here is that I want it to be 100 degrees every day. And it was like when I was sucked into this other body, this other frame of consciousness, and like I had told you in the first trip when I had sat down by the fire and just kind of like sighed that nirvana, I was like, this is life. Like, this is the life that I feel in my bones, the life that I have attempted to emulate through trips going up north, that I've tried to accomplish by disconnecting, that I tried to accomplish by going out into the wild. Like, I was there. And it's kind of hard for me to ignore Alan Watts when I agree with him on so many other things that maybe I had picked up some of these personality traits from a former existence or something. Because like living in the city for me was toxic. It felt like I was being destroyed every day more and more. Like I was having pieces of me taken away from me. And when I moved here, it felt like all those pieces that were taken away were being put back. And like when I was living this life, like I was addicted to drugs, and I can tell you right now, I was addicted to drugs for two reasons. One reason, I hated this reality that I was existing in, fully and utterly. I hated everything that I was doing, and the only thing that gave me any kind of solace was music, and like essentially that's escapism as well. I'm writing and redefining myself and documenting experiences and everything. I'm creating a new experience, and I'm creating the exact new experience that you would have on drugs. I'm just doing it sober, and that was the only thing that gave me any kind of semblance of like any reason at all to stay here. And I was using drugs to either get out of this reality temporarily or permanently. Those were my two options. I honestly, I didn't care whether or not I died. I was welcome to the option of going under in like some kind of narcotic arrest and never awakening again. I was totally fine with that. I knew for a fact deep down in my being that the life I was living was not the life I was supposed to be living. It was a complete and utter failure from the top down, and what I needed to do was reset. I needed to hit the reset button. I smash that shit as hard as I possibly can. Don't save any of this data. Let's go on to the next one. And that's how I felt. And then when I moved and I came here, it was so shocking right off the bat. I didn't know how to accept any of it. Honestly, it didn't take long, man. I've never experienced the desire to stop drinking or stop doing drugs in my life until I moved here, because there was no way that I was going to be able to fill those holes and those gaps and cracks with the existence that I was living in St. Catharines. It just wasn't possible. Or Toronto or Hamilton or anywhere that was that kind of city atmosphere. For me, it just wasn't doing that for me. It wasn't possible. And when I moved here, it was like you step onto this island and you're exiting one world and you're entering another one. It's almost like there's magic here. It's like, I don't know, like a spiritual hot spring. If you talk to people, they'll say like, this is like on island. If you believe in energy meridians, there's 2 on this island. If you believe in spirits, they're everywhere here. If you like talk to like almost anybody that's lived here for a substantial amount of time, and they can tell you some fucked shit you would not believe. And I don't think that that's just a product of the crazy lifestyles that we live out here. I think it's real. Like it's not. This place isn't diseased with the new modern value of wealth as material gain and asset building for self. It's not like that. And you're here where your life depends on a balance between you and the surrounding area. Especially if you're the type of person that wants to hunt and fish and gather, you're going to be essentially not frequenting the grocery store for anything except for like those bare things that you can't find out here. But like all the people that I know got freezers full of deer and fish, and not only do they have freezers full of deer and fish, but they share. And it's a different type of existence that was hitting everything I felt like I was missing. And the experience that I had in that other dimensional space of time and reality that was very palpable and indistinguishable from what you would call reality. If we go back to what is reality, if reality is chemicals dumping in my brain and electrical signals going back and forth, and I 100% spent a year of real reality in another place as another person,
Yeah.
and that was real. And there's nothing you can say about that. Like when people say, you know, why do you believe in God? Well, I believe in God because I have met God. I have met God. God speaks to me. I've had some kind of crazy spiritual experience in which it's undeniable for me that God exists. Well, it's undeniable for me that reality exists beyond whatever your scope of what you think reality is, because I've done it. And I did it 3 times in one day. And beyond that, I've had experiences. Like even beyond that, I've had experiences that you just cannot explain. They're not real. It's not a real scientific experience. Time dilation and space dilation. Like, have you ever been on fucking mushrooms and the thing that's 5 feet in front of you is like 1,000,000 miles away, and every time you keep moving, it's just that you can't get there. It's further and further. Like your understanding of everything changes.
Yeah.
And when I listen to Alan Watts and I eat acid and I go on these fucking year-long trips in my brain and things like this happen, like for a lot of people that's terrifying, because it's like, oh well, I'm alive for 60 years and I need to accomplish everything, blah blah blah. And it's like, it feels like you're forcing it, and you know you're forcing it. You're anxious. It's just, it's not right. You know, you're plugging away for whatever reason. Like listening to things like Alan Watts and, like I said, eating psychedelics and these things, it kind of takes away the seriousness, in a sense that everything's not life and death, and like what you're supposed to be doing with your time here has nothing to do with social expectations. Like the greatest example of that is if you were to open your scope past anywhere outside of Canada and America, you will see that social expectations are different everywhere. Everybody expects something differently from you based on your culture. Our culture is get money. So everything that you're experiencing as per your expectations are, I need a house and a wife and kids by this age with a decent job and a pension. It's like, okay, that is actually what you need for you to live in Toronto. Yes, you do need that, or you're going to be fucking homeless.
Yeah.
That's not what you need to live.
Right.
What you need to live is you need to be. And like what I told you before when I was talking about the things that I've read, that one book, the Bhagavad Gita, your being, like Alan Watts talks about it. Your being is like, you can strive to do this and that and everything, whatever, that's fine. But like, you know, innately, when you wake up and your mind is clear, you have a drive for something. It's probably not what you're about to do when you're putting on your work clothes to leave the door. That's probably not what you feel like you should be doing with your time. And it you know what, more times than not, it isn't what you should be doing. But you do have obligations. And like when I think about how lucky I am that somehow I had made it through all these years without a kid, not that I don't want a child, but the experiences that I've had, the life that I've lived, I would not have been able to do if I was married and had a mortgage. I would be
Right.
locked into that.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm incredibly, what's the word? Maybe gifted or blessed with the opportunity that I had, where in reality, a lot of people would look at me and they're like, oh, you're fucking up your time. Oh, your biological clock is ticking. I'm like, buddy, you have no idea what's going on over here. Like you don't understand what's happening in here. And I don't feel bad for you. I can't feel bad for you. But if I had your life, I would feel bad about it. And I don't. I have this life and I feel great about it. And all I want to do is be in my mode. I know the things that I want to do. I know the actions that I enjoy, music, community, helping. I like to put my love out. But I've experienced a lot of toxic behavior in the city that had me keeping my love inside and projecting hatred and anger as like a defense mechanism. And when you're hateful and angry and compulsive and have drug addictions, that's just going to further antagonize those feelings. And it's the environment as much as it is like the nurturing, the nature and the nurture, they're balanced. And as soon as I got rid of the one, I was able to shed my hatred, and I was able to shed my anger, and I was able to become more vulnerable and be able to open myself without restriction. All of a sudden, I'm starting to hit my mode, and I can feel it. Like I can feel it. Like it's undeniable to me that the path that I am on now is the right path as opposed to the one I was on when I was chasing my ticket. I had, my gas ticket. I could have taken a company if I wanted to. I could have had my own business. I could have done all that. But then I knew that I also would have drank myself to death by 45, and I'd probably do some other kind of wild shit because that's not what I wanted to do. And all that, was kind of keeping me straight was the fact that, in 6 hours from now, I'm going to get twisted and go to bed. That's not life.
Yeah.
And it's taken psychedelics and philosophers and poetry and nature and everything that's not something you can buy in a store for a commercial retail price to figure that out. You know what I mean? And there's no two ways about it. All those crazy fucked experiences that I've had have been beneficial to me because of how I can understand it and work with me in my life. If you put those set of circumstances on somebody else, it could be different. But for me, it's just been plainly obvious. Like I have a drive, I have a being that wants to exist. I don't have any control over that. I never decided it, right? Like you never decided coming out, becoming a human. You never decided where you would be. You never decided any of that. That was preordained. It just happened. Boom, you're here. And then, okay, so now all of a sudden you're just going to assume authority over yourself. Like, I know exactly what I'm supposed to be doing. Do you?
Nobody does.
Like, but the thing is, like, but it's not what you think. It's in you. Like, you know how to do things. Like, you know how to breathe. You know how to pump blood. You know how to make your brain work. Your brain knows what kinds of things it enjoys. These are my skills. These are, this is how, if I do this, then my brain will release endorphins. You have this set of being programmed into you. And then as soon as you enter grade school, they start to kill everything and put you into some other kind of mode of social expectation that destroys your creativity, like your being.
Yeah.
The person you are. So I've honestly just spent a lot of my time these last few years trying to destroy everything that was built up around me so that I could get back to who I am. And I'm like now more on that path than I've ever been in my life. And I feel like that's a way bigger win than securing a mortgage on a house in Oakville.
Yeah, I think that deep down you're that moment that you had after you brought the hog back and had your dinner, and you're sitting on that plateau looking out and going, damn, this is life right here,
Yeah.
Your soul, or whatever you want to call it, is I think maybe been trying to find that again, because on some level that was an experience that, whether it was a past life of yours or whatever, that was an experience that person or whatever, the oneness, that South American indigenous fella, that was a real experience that guy had as you, and said and looked out and thought, this is life. This is what it's all about. This is what it is for me. And now here you are. And the funny thing is, I was going to ask as a joke when you're telling that story, when you pop back into your real body, did you go, holy fuck, it's freezing, right? Because you were in South America. And then you kind of brought that up. You're like, honestly, the one thing I would change about where I am now is the temperature, right? And I kind of thought, like, you know what? Maybe you're that guy. Like, maybe that's who you really are, is that guy, and like you found yourself like an Arctic version of that life that you want, and a 2021 Arctic version of that life that you once had, And to bring it back to Alan Watts, like, I love that I've always loved that idea that he has that, the one consciousness, through infinity, you'll eventually experience everything, right? You'll be a person, you'll be a bird, you'll be a bug, you'll be without, and don't even limit that to Earth. There's a whole infinite physical universe out there as well, right? But even if you just look at Earth, like, if you're a human being, you're the only being that can be self-aware that we know of, maybe dolphins and shit are probably self-aware, but just the fact that in all the infinite cosmos, and just on this ball alone, and all the seemingly infinite biodiversity that happens on this planet, you ended up a human, you ended up in this position where you can experience it all and know yourself as the universe, as all of that. Your next life, if or whatever comes after you die, may not be a human being. You know what I mean? Like, you don't fucking know, and it doesn't really matter. But it's like, while you're here and you're a human being, the fact that we're so put into a little box and be like, okay, this is what your path is, this is what you got to do, when it's like, dude, I'm a human, let me enjoy this. This is a phenomenon, this is a rare phenomenon that we're experiencing, getting to live life as a human, if you consider the grand scope of the infinite across all of time and space. Right now, you're something that can do a line of ketamine and have a psychedelic trip, so it's, that to me is an experience that I think is, it's easy to say it's not, psychedelics aren't for everyone, which, to some degree is true. I think everyone has theirs that they should be trying, that they should, like, you need to experience that other realm, that other side of consciousness, so that you don't get so caught up in taking your one being so seriously, and your one little life and your little story so seriously. But yo, man, this has been phenomenal. This is what Ezza Trips Balls is all about. So I'm so glad this episode 50. I do need to begin winding down. We barely touched on music, but you know what? It's all good, man. This Ezza Trips Balls.
Exactly.
Anything else you want to add? And then we'll get into the stuff we want to promote.
I think the only thing that I would add, just as like a kind of as a statement, is if you're feeling uncomfortable where you are doing what you're doing, and it gives you anxiety, and it maybe can be the cause of depression, and you find yourself out trying to find a way to cope with your circumstances, then I would advise that you explore possibly changing your circumstances instead of softening your reaction to them. Because I think that is incredibly important, at least to attempt to see if there is a more true expression of yourself that just will make everything feel right. Which, I mean, by all intents and purposes, we go by feel in this reality. So if you want to, remedy some of these horribly conflicting situations that you're in, you might just need to cut some fat.
There's a whole world out there.
Exactly.
Visa Vista.
Yes, Visa Vista.
Go find Ase Mor, the Corner Store Rapper, on all streaming digital platforms. Right now, you can listen to Visa Vista and the new single Sauna Sessions, which I fucking love.
Thank you.
And then you got some new heat coming.
Yeah,
on the fucking pipeline.
Oh man, I got a little 6-track banger that's all recorded now. So just mixing that down. That's gonna come out soon, produced by Cato Crates. And then there's that other little thing.
Other little thing we'd be working on. Yeah. So people
Yeah.
be on the lookout, man. Be on the lookout. Go listen to this
There we
guy.
go.
This guy is I can't even begin to express how much I fucking love this guy. You're what you do is incredible. You're you're a treasure, man. Like you're a real rare diamond in the rough talent of a human being. And whenever I partake in your art, in your craft, in your writing, I'm like, I can't believe I know this fucking guy. Like you're like a fucking alien. So despite all the trials and tribulations that you've been through, somebody as gifted as you needs like fodder for that gift. You know what I'm saying? You can't just you couldn't have just had a comfortable life the whole time. You know what I mean? Or what would the fuck, what would your gift be talking about? So
Yeah.
it's a shame that so many of our great minds and great talents and great artists have such tragic pasts and tragic stories, and you're no exception, my friend. But I am just so happy that you've come out the other side, and you seem to be in the right place. And big ups, man, because you're an inspiration to a lot of people who may not know that there's a light at the end of the tunnel.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Hell
I appreciate it.
And just go listen to this guy's music.
Just so the listeners know, I do need to give you some heavy props, too, for opening my mind up, man, because I wouldn't even be where I'm at with my style and everything if you didn't talk some sense into me.
Oh, shit, man. Well, hey, I try to talk some sense into knowing that ended up having a positive effect on you really helped me, because now I'm not afraid to say it to people,
Good.
You'll be like, because as I've expressed to you before, I always kind of felt bad about that until you later came back to me and were like, yo, thank you for that, because I was like, man, who the fuck am I to tell this guy anything? Like, he could write me into a fucking dumpster, but you knew that there was something there, that there was some nugget of gold there, and you ran with it, man. So it's a pleasure to see it. I can't wait to keep working together. So let's get it.
Same. Man. Yeah.
And the Corner Store Rapper on Instagram. Ase Mor, the Corner Store Rapper, everywhere else. Love you, bro. Thanks a lot for coming through.
Yes, sir. Thank you, man.
Anytime, brother. Peace.
About to take a plane to another plane, to another plane, to another plane, bumping Baka not nice while I'm trapping in the rain.